Hello, everybody, and welcome to the play-in edition of the weekly recap for the 2025 Marvel Blast Summer Premiere. I'm Shadow Visions. I'm back from my trip. It is Thursday. The playing week is half over, and I'm extremely sick, but the show must go on, and I'm going to do my best to bring this to y'all, along with two very excellent guests today. Some of the younger and more fresh faces to the tournament scene, which is always awesome to see. First up, we're going to start with bobirika. Why don't you say hi?
Hi guys, I am bobirika 12. I'm mainly known for my speedy playstyle, and I tend to make a lot of mistakes during matches because of my speedy playstyle. I'll make sure to fix that by next year.
Hey,
What can I say? I'm part of the younger generation, probably the youngest in the tournament, and and was very excited to join this year. And I hope I'll make myself some more time to join next year as well.
well, you're still in the tournament, so we're going to have to see how far you get. Have you been enjoying your matches this year?
Matches have been well, although with some une- less less favorable results and some more a little bit of drama. We can say that. My match with Ignis went more or less the. My match with MBO was okay. I really can't complain. I went to randomizer. It really was funny that I won on Sprawl, but I lost on Stadium. So hey, I won on Sprawl though. That's something.
Yeah, good stuff. Regardless, it's been exciting to have you, and you've definitely made some interesting matchups to watch, which is always exciting. For my other guests here, we have Jax. Why don't you say hi, Jax?
Hello. I'm not really, or well, I have played multiplayer quite often before, but not as much as other people. I have gotten at like all of the awesome times in the main game, which not a lot of people have done.
Yeah, that's great.
I have also, or I'm not really sure what else to say.
Would you consider the awesome times your biggest accomplishment in the game?
Of course.
Cool. When did you start playing multiplayer?
Well, I have played it like a few times before, but haven't really tried a whole lot. But then, when I was like in 2024, when that tournament was going on, I was just mostly watching. I wasn't actually playing. But this year, I actually am playing,
Yeah, it's
and I
incredible.
made it pretty far too.
Making it to playoffs in your first tournament is definitely a huge accomplishment as well. So I hope you're proud about that. All right. Well, let's go over. I'm sure that you all have seen the show before, so we're gonna start by reviewing the Week 6 games, which are actually quite a while in the past at this point. And then we're going to check out the ELO updates and go through the play-in predictions that everyone has. As some of the games have already happened, we're gonna briefly touch on whatever might be applicable there, but mostly gonna be predictions. All right.
Those Week 6 games are old. Okay.
And this is
Um,
the 0-1 match. Endzone had a win and Deathlore did not. Does anyone have anything to say about Deathlore or Endzone for that matter? This is the last time we're going to see either of them this year.
hey, hey, let's be honest here. The fact that Deathlore actually went out of her way to participate in a tournament is pretty honorable by itself, because unless I've got the skills to do it, I'm not risking myself. I'm gonna be completely honest. So, and she really put up a very cool show. So, yeah, I'll give her that.
I definitely agree with you. She had probably the most flashy blue of the tournament, so she's got that at least. All right, moving on to the 1 and 4 matches. These were mostly for fun. I mean, there was a little bit of rivalry on some of these, like Farmer's Wife and Ziggle Flag. I know that me and Turk were competing to
Indeed.
see whose friend could do the best, and Turk definitely won this one with his wife putting up a good showing. We also have Netro taking one game off Pasta Real, but Pasta continuing a good comeback after starting 0-4, ending the tournament by notching 2 wins under his belt, which is great for him. And finally, Porter came back after a week vacation and played against Gigi Jacob, and that also ended in 3-1. So a lot of 3-1s on this page. Anything stand out to
Yeah.
either of y'all?
I am the only one who was there for the 1-3-4 Initro Pasta. Sorry, but the recording was just so bad. It wasn't even worth just uploading it. But from from the games that I viewed, Spires was very close. Both were ahead a couple times, and whoever won that game won it like such a small margin. It was cinema, and Fabricy Grounds was also very good game. Parkour Picks was just sluggish from both, but you know it's 1-4.
Yeah, I love seeing the lower bracket players fighting on maps like Parkour Peaks and just I believe Parkour Peaks was also played in the Porter versus Gigi Jacob game. And yeah, it was. And Porter won that like 68-36. But if you looked up at the top of the map, there were so many expired yellows just everywhere because neither of them could make it up to the top of the map, and it was so funny.
Ah,
Yeah,
thank God they didn't replace it though.
Yeah, Inetro versus Pasta also had PCC, which was decided by 2 points. So that was actually a very close series and could have easily gone to randomizer. So definitely was an exciting one.
I agree.
On the right, we have this clip from Sweep. I don't know if there's anything super interesting here other than Osas misses a blue, which is a very unfortunate thing to do. But I mean, I think everyone's been there where you bounce over the blue.
It happens to all of us. It happens to all of us.
Yeah.
He still did get the blue gem though, but he did it a little bit late.
Yeah, I think Yoshi was just so shocked by the fact that Sauce missed that one that he just got hit by the blocker in his face trying to get it. So, yeah, that was the one game Sauce was able to take. As we see here, this is the elimination matches of the bracket. I think this is actually okay, there's 6 of these. So these were some of the most exciting matches of the week for sure. Unfortunately, none of them went to randomizer here, but in terms of like stakes, this was one of the highest. We had Kali sweeping Subtract, although that series was closer than it looked. Yoshi taking down Osas, Plasma against Blue Sock. Those were both 3-1. And then T Hurst and Surge completing sweeps over Red Zone and Herzelis, respectively. Were there any series here that y'all enjoyed watching or you thought deserved some extra notes?
I feel like Blue Sock Plasma was expected, although it could have easily went to randomizer because Plasma, she has a lot of potential, but at the moment, she didn't really unlock it. She still took a game, which is still very respectable, but other than that, nothing much.
Yeah, you played Blue Sock and definitely farmed some PD, which was enough to earn yourself the highest PD in the tournament, I think. So that was very funny.
I
But
committed a war crime there.
yes, you did. But they actually played Marble Agility Course in their first game, and the first round was a tie between the two of them. But
Whoa.
Blue Sock was very upset that he couldn't get the last yellow that was on his screen, and he actually ended up losing the rematch of that tie. So if he did take that map, it would have gone to randomizer, which, yeah. I mean, I expected these two to kind of play a close game between each other. Yeah, a little unfortunate Blue Sock couldn't bring it to randomizer, but I think Plasma definitely excited to make it to play-ins in his first tournament, just like you, Jaxx. So that's definitely going to be cool to see.
I don't think I've ever seen a tie before in this tournament before.
Yeah, there were actually a few this week. I believe the T Hearst versus Red Zone had a tie on Terrace Tundra as well, 104 to 104.
Yes.
And then Terry won the rematch on Terry Tundra, which is of course a map that he should always win, given its name.
Terry Sandra, the new map. It's the new hot thing. Terry Sandra. It's
Yeah.
his gauntlet, dude.
Yeah, and we will definitely talk more about Terry later on in the video. But I expected some of these to be pretty close, as you can see by the 3-2s for Osas and Yoshi and Blue Slug Plasma. So a little sad we didn't get some closer games. I'd also gonna give a shout out to Subtract, who I think had some good showing this tournament. But unfortunately, Callie was back on his desktop and had a very strong match. And Subtract got a little bit unlucky on a map like Cascade Falls. He ended up barely losing that one. So, yeah, gonna be a sweep for Kali. On the right here, we have a clip between me and Frost. This was on Prophetic. Time was running out, and he got megaed. So this was a very close ending. Yeah, we've seen some pretty insane megas on Prophetic. The one between Jacob and Turk definitely comes to mind as well. Finally, we have Power John versus HughesMatt. I think everyone kind of expected Power John to take this one decisively.
Powerful Jonathan strikes again.
Yep. After a very rough Swift stage, you have to say, for Power John, he had basically one of the hardest schedules you could get, having to play against Frostfire, John, A-Game. Basically, he ran through the gauntlet, and it was not a good time at all, but luckily he was able to come back and I think win 3 series in a row to qualify for play-ins, so that's good for him. Jaxx, I believe this clip on the right is from your series. This is you getting the Cinder Blue on Skate Park Square.
And he was too high up to even get a chance at the blue gem.
Yeah, and I think you actually did the same thing in your set against Mazik on this map as well. So it definitely seems like a map that you're very comfortable with. Would you think that's fair to say?
Maybe, but recently I found out that sweep might actually be a good one for me.
Yeah. Sweep's definitely a risky one because everyone had to play it for the pre-seed this year. So for that reason, it's kind of well known. But if you're good at it and can dodge the blockers, it's a really fun one. I definitely enjoy it myself.
I said that I was good at avoiding the traffic, and that Stormson taught me.
Oh, because
I don't know if he's gonna
for
see this.
traffic signals.
Yeah, I might share this to him after we're
Yeah.
done.
Okay. Moving on, we have the 3 and 2 series. You can ignore the clip on the right. It's from week 5, and I just ran out of clips, so this one didn't get changed, given how tired I was. But these are the results. We have, once again, no 3-2s in this part of the bracket, but Ignis was able to take a 3-1 over Robert. Robert actually played a very good series. He was able to win against Ignis on Skate Park Square, and he actually tied Ignis the first round on Sacred. So the third tie of the week, and on one of Ignis's best maps too. I mean, he beat Frostfire on Sacred earlier in the tournament. So I was very impressed with what Robert brought to the table in this series. Given what we know about Ignis taking both Zedron and Frostfire to randomizer in his Swiss stage. So yeah, good stuff from Robert. Did you guys both expect Ignis to sweep, or kind of what were your expectations coming into this one?
The sweep was somewhat expected, but that tie on Sacred was very interesting. That was peak, considering that it's one of his better maps. It's not easy to tie someone who's playing their signature map. It's a very difficult task because they pretty much know the map better than you do. To some degree, because at the top level, pretty much everyone knows every single map.
Mm-hmm.
Still a very, very respectable accomplishment. And Robert, just like Sergey, they have a lot of potential, and at times they can be very threatening in a match. So we should definitely keep an eye on them.
Yeah, I think this was Robert's best series of the Swiss stage and of the tournament, so definitely good by him. Speaking of ties, I know you were talking the other day about your opinion on extending the matches instead of replaying them. Do you have anything to say about that? I just thought it was interesting.
I just thought it's an idea which funnily enough, and I'm not kidding, was inspired by the Clash Royale sudden death system. You may now laugh, but yeah, it kind of feels weird that you have to replay the whole map, and it's extra tiring because, and not only that, you also have a lot of the pressure, because you tied the previous game, so you are scared to not do mistakes, and you play safer, and therefore you play slower and stuff like that. So pretty much, instead of having to replay the whole map, we can just extend the current game by a bit, make some changes like the competitive timer, and give some players a little bit of time to rest before the new game. And I could seriously see that as a much more hype option.
Yeah, something I observed with all the ties that we've seen so far is that in the rematch, typically the person whose pick it was kind of dominates in the rematch because they obviously it's their pick, and usually the other player expended all their energy trying to make it close in the first place. So in this example, Ignis absolutely crushed on the Sacred rematch. He won by more than 50 points against Robert.
Wow.
So yeah, I think by extending the game for a minute instead of playing the whole match again, it's gonna kind of lead to more excitement rather than just kind of replaying it and being a stomp one way. So definitely open to
Yeah.
that idea. Moving on though, we have Jacob versus Wilches, which I think most people thought would be Jacob favored, but Wilches ended up sweeping it.
Which is very is pretty underrated in my honest opinion. He is capable of so much. At times he can actually play at my level, and he's always giving me trouble whenever we play together in friendlies and such. So considering that when Jacob entered the tournament, he was not in his best shape. It's pretty fair to say that we could have seen something like this occur.
Mm-hmm. And Jacob was also on his not ideal setup. So I think what would have probably been a close, maybe 3-1 or 3-2 between the two of them ended up being a complete stomp for Wilches, which was really cool to see him have such a good time. You know, we've seen glimpses of it, such as in his match against Ignis. But this was kind of the first
Yeah.
time where he really ran away with the match. And that's going to give him a much better shot in the playoff bracket. Jacob, on the other hand, is going to go in as the I think 25th seed of playoffs,
Wow.
which gives him a very brutal bracket to say the least, and not what we expected of him coming into the Swiss. But that's just how it goes with the competition being so tight this year. Um,
Mm.
Jax, did you have any thoughts on this series?
Like specifically on Jacob and Wilches,
Yeah, I'm not sure if
or
you
like
caught it, but that one.
I believe I was a bit more in favor of Wilches winning since I know him more than Jacob.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's pretty
interesting.
much it.
Yep, he's definitely well known by the newer members of the community, whereas Jacob's kind of only around during tournament season. Okay, moving on, we have Mazik versus bobirika. This is one that I believe everyone but A Game bet on Mazik, and of course our
Correct.
resident tournament co-host for this week was able to come out victorious in a 3-0 sweep, which was definitely not the result that anyone suspected, let alone winning. He was able to 3-0. So very incredible. There were some close games, though. I think, what was the score? Yeah, he won architecture by
Architecture,
1 point.
architecture.
And that was definitely one where I would have expected Mazik to win, just given his kind of experience on that map. But given how shaky he looked in the week leading up to it, it's not terribly surprising that he was able to lose a couple games. But in 3-0 fashion was definitely surprising to me. Um, what was your experience like playing this series, Bobby?
Um, it was anything but what I expected, because I was seriously expecting Mostic to go all out with Horizon, Archie, Cragmire, two of those three. So I prepared like a demon. I played every single day last week, and I prepared all I could. The thing is though that Mazik had a pretty tight schedule ahead of the game. He didn't have much time to practice, so that contributed a lot to this win. I'm speaking from experience, by the way. The feeling that you have before the game, that fear to play, stop being warmed up, is insane.
Mm-hmm. How would you say your nerves have kind of progressed over the tournament? Because obviously you played Ignis in week 2, and that seemed like it was a very like hard experience for you. But then in week 6 you play an opponent of a similar caliber, and it seemed like you were able to handle it a lot better.
Uh, I can't say that my nerves changed all that much, but I feel like I've gone a little bit more uh, accurate with my play style. Maybe my nerves diminished by a little bit, but I'm still easily getting over 120 in very tense situations. Terra Sandra, game 5 of me versus MBO, that was crazy. I could barely breathe.
Yeah, that was a
I
nail
hope
biter.
that
It was a pleasure to cast that series with how crazy it was, and it definitely could have gone either way.
yeah, I hope that at some point I won't be this as I won't nerves won't affect me this much, but only time will tell.
Yeah, but rather than nerves affecting you or not, I have a feeling that for most people it's all relative. It's can you handle your nerves better than the person you're playing against? And it's a matter of rising to the challenge. Jax, do you have anything to say about this one? Were you expecting bobirika to take it or Mazik this time?
I'll be honest, I was very scared when I saw that Bobby Rico won that one because I played against Mazik in the second week and I did not do very good. Especially on the Platinum Construction, that one was really bad for me. So then when I found out that Bobby Rico won, I was like, I thought that he would be like infinitely better than I was.
Oh, by the transitive property of Marvel players. Yeah, that's definitely something that a lot of people kind of fall into, but everyone has a different play style, and I think everyone also has like different ebbs and flows of what their form is like. And I would definitely say Mazik play was in a better form earlier in the tournament than we saw, in the last couple weeks. I think kind of the mentality of the tournament got to him a little bit, and I hope he can come back from that.
Yeah.
But overall, I would not say that you two played the same Mazik, but it's definitely interesting to compare since both of you are on the show today and both of you played him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on, we have MBO versus Turk. This one is unfortunately lost media, but I can pull up the results here. It did actually look quite close. Turk was able to take his pick of Marble City to kick off the series by only 3 points. And then MBO was able
Oh,
to take Horizon pretty decisively, 30 points there. And then Turk picked King of the Marble, and MBO was able to actually win that one by quite a bit for King of the Marble, 12 points. And MBO brought Acropolis 2 out, which is definitely a pick that I don't really associate with MBO. I don't know about y'all. He's more of a MBU kind of guy, obviously, given
yeah.
his preferences and tournament experience. So a bit of a surprising one to pick against Turk, and it was actually only a 1 point win in the end. So Turk was very close to bringing that one to randomizer. But overall, 3-1 I think is lines up with pretty much what everyone expected. You can see that's what I predicted on the left here. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, not really a surprise there, I would say. Anything from either of y'all on that one?
I don't have
Um,
anything to say. I didn't end up watching it.
Acropolis 2 is kind of like Sprawl, in my honest opinion. So I would see why MBO would pick it because it's pretty similar. Some of the spawns are similar, but there's also some interesting stuff like the blues that are on those like orange towers.
Mm-hmm.
Those can cause a headache for some people. The thing is that MBO as a player is more refined in movement and can somewhat have an aggressive playstyle. Whereas Turk is just slamming Mega Marbles and Blast into everybody. Sometimes it works, but If you have a little bit more skill, you can match his play style and you can win.
Yeah, Acropolis 2 is a map where you can definitely do very well by just spamming the megas, so that's why I thought it was a little surprising to pick into a player like Turk, but he got away with it this time, and he's gonna be moving into playoffs with a 4-2 record. Actually, already getting a play-in win against Eurobeater, who decided to forfeit. We'll get to that later. Final one on the sheet is very interesting. We had a solo hunt face-off between roommates Lasharkus and Kago for a 4-2 spot in the playoffs. Most people predicted Lasharkus since obviously he's been playing this game a lot longer, but I actually predicted Kago to win this one, and he was able to get it done 3-1. What did y'all think about the unique format of this match?
I think it was the best you could possibly do. You have to improvise in situations like this. Nobody expected that two people would there will be a situation like this where two people have just the same computer. So I think that fair it's a fair thing to do to make them play solo jam hunt and divide the scores by two because realistically there's no way they'll play a game of sweep and it will be like 220 at 210. So
Yeah.
to make the scores seem a little bit more realistic.
Right, we did end up cutting them half for the purposes of point differential. Not that it really ended up mattering, I don't think, for either of them. But punting around was won by 1 point by Kago, and that's ultimately what saved him from going to randomizer against Lasharkus. And Kago had the best luck I've ever seen on Maximo Center. I think there were 14 blues in that one, and he never even had to cross the map. So kind of crazy to just put up a score that's good enough for like top 15 on the leaderboards in the moment like that. So nicely done by him, and he did move up to 4-2, but ended up with a little bit of an unlucky seed, as we'll see later. And then finally, we have your game, Jaxx, and actually both of you were able to take home a sweep in week 6, with you beating Eurobeater 3-0. What was your experience for this one?
I don't remember.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
I guess like the only thing I can think of right now is that I wasn't expecting to just completely take over him without him winning at all.
Yeah, so he picked Par Pit and Vortex Effect, and neither of them were all that close. You basically won all 3 games pretty convincingly. I guess, did you prepare for the match in any way with him? Because Vortex Effect is definitely a pick that he's known for.
I don't think I've practiced anything really. I've just been sort of just trying and then see how it goes.
Yeah, that's definitely one way that you can approach the game. Bobirika, is this kind of what you expected for the result, with Jaxx winning pretty decisively?
No. I thought that European would have the power to take at least a game. But a 3-0 win for Dax? Okay,
Yeah,
cool to see.
this was one where people actually were predicting Eurobeater to take it, or at least there were some people that were on both sides. It was one of the more split matches in terms of the bets, I feel like, of the week. And I had 1-3 myself, having played against Jaxx before, and obviously I played Eurobeater earlier in the tournament, and from those experiences, I thought Jaxx was the better player. So
I would have thought that I would, or I was expecting that I would win like the whole game, but I was expecting him to at least get one win.
yeah, that's definitely what I thought as well. But nicely done to be able to take it in such a decisive fashion. Um,
Also, something a bit funny was A game did end up betting for me to win, and I did actually win, so I made him lose money.
A-Game's been having a
Even though
rough
he's
time
kind
of it
of.
lately. All of his bets have been coming out true, So he's gonna have to revisit himself and see if he can improve that.
His plan of digging a hole through the center of the earth doesn't seem to be working this week.
I know he's really slacking off.
Perhaps maybe I should try to lose as much as possible in the betting for next year, maybe. Just as like a silly little experiment or something.
You could probably beat A Game with the way he's doing it the last couple weeks, constantly getting bets right. So I'm sure you could do it.
But I have a feeling that he's too far gone that I wouldn't be able to catch up to
Oh, not
him.
this year, yeah. Although all the bets are worth double in playoffs, so it is technically possible. But you'd have to, he would have to get some high value predictions come true. All right, clip on the right here is just from Wilches versus Jacob. I honestly forget whose marble is in front here. I think Wilches is the one with the gyrocopter. I never know when I'm watching Wilches because he changes his marble every single game. But yeah,
Diversity.
definitely public enemy number one for Nakas, who tries to make the thumbnails for these videos.
I'm someone who always uses the same marble every time.
Oh, I am too. I use the classic PQ green, and I have never felt inclined to change it in any way. And I mean, it's kind of your brand, really. So, I mean, that's just what I prefer. Moving on to the 4-1 matches. These were for a 5-1 spot in the Swiss stage, so highly coveted positions all around. And for the most part, these games delivered, with the exception of Voltage dropping out of the tournament against Eguy, which is a real shame because I definitely thought he would be able to beat Eguy. But Eguy is going to be taking a nice, easy road into the number 2 seed of the tournament, which is definitely pretty high considering it's a forfeit to get him there. But we all know he has the skill to be 5-1, so it's not that unfair at the end of the day.
I'm not entirely sure why Voltage ended up leaving. He was doing pretty good, but then he just left. I don't know if something was going on with his life or something that he had to leave.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you were there for the episode he had at the end of week 5, but that probably had something to do with it. And I also heard that he was having some things to keep himself occupied going on in real life. So without going too much into personal information, I just hope that it gets better for him and he's able to come back. I hope this is not the last we see of Voltage in multiplayer, is I guess what I want to say, because he definitely is a very skilled player. All right, then we have John versus Nakas, and this was a very, very one-sided bet as well towards John coming in. I thought it would be 3-1 just because Nakas isn't practicing at all, and John definitely has a ton of multiplayer experience. But in the end, it was Nakas to take this one in randomizer round, and it was definitely a favorable randomizer for Nakas, with a lot of the final picks being favorable to him. I think Vibrancy Grounds was in there. And they ended up going to Skate Park Square, which Nakas picked in the previous week in order to take a win over Jacob. So, yeah, definitely favorable territory for Nakas, and they were able to bring it home along with wins on Architecture and Outlook. And then John was able to win his signature maps of Hunting Around and Nadir. So everyone won their own pick in this series, which I guess isn't terribly surprising, but yeah. Any thoughts on this one from either of you?
I could explain why the best was a one-sided for Jean, and it's mainly because his aggressive playstyle combined with extra speed compared to Novice. Wait, was I muted the whole time? Okay,
No, we
never
heard
mind.
you, but you cut out a bit at the end.
Oh. Pretty much, Jean, I believe, is faster overall, and he's more aggressive compared to Nokis, talking from experience. And that would have also made me bet for John. But Nokis has a lot of raw skill. He has a lot of single player experience, so naturally, when it comes to doing tricks or just generally going from point A to point B without fumbling, he would be the favorite to do that.
Yep. Uh, did you get a chance to watch this one, Jax? Or
I didn't end up watching this.
Gotcha. Okay. And moving on to the last 4-1 match, we had Zedron versus Endy. I thought this one was going to be pretty close, 3-2, and I actually predicted the winner as well. Zedron was able to take this in yet another randomizer, which was on Parkour Peaks, which is a map that I don't really associate with either of the players, but obviously Zedron has the raw mechanical skill to be very good at a map like that. But it ended up being pretty close. And I think, yeah, this is one where Endy was able to win Zedron's pick of Horizon, and Zedron was able to, Zedron was able to win Endy's pick of Cragmire. So both of them took a game off the other one on their pick, and that was what brought it to a game 5. But coming into the tournament, I don't feel like really anyone would have given Endy a chance at this series, given Zedron's GOAT 3-time champion status and Endy participating in his first tournament. So I think this is a pretty great result for him. What would you say, bobirika?
Well, as we've seen this tournament, Sejan hasn't really pushed himself to his absolute limits. If he would have done that, we would have seen a 6-0. I'm
A 6-0?
100%.
Oh, in Swiss.
A
I thought you meant in the
is win.
series.
Oops. My fault. Either way, Andy has a more slippery-ish playstyle. I've seen more super speeds from Andy, but also more mistakes. Sejan was just, I feel like was more composed and was just chilling for the most part. And he managed to take the win from raw skill. That's my honest opinion.
Yeah, it does feel like Zedron doesn't let nerves get to him at all because he just doesn't care about the outcome of the game anymore. So he's immune in that part. Endy, on the other hand, has improved a lot and definitely has incorporated more like aggression into his play style, which is something that Zedron doesn't always have a lot of in his own play. So that was cool to see. On the right here, we have a classic blue steel clip on Rancer Vamped. Hughes Matt ends up flying too high with the gyrocopter, and Power John is able to get the blue from under his nose. So,
Boom.
definitely an experience we've
Powerful
all had.
Jonathan strikes again.
Yeah.
I believe I said this yesterday, but it would be a bit interesting to see how multiplayer would go like if you had the ability to just stop your gyrocopter whenever you want.
Yeah, gyrocopter
So
would be
that something like
so
that
strong
doesn't
if you could do
happen.
that. You have to be so like smart about when you actually pop it, and people often do it even before the next spawn comes in, just because they don't need the full like 7 seconds or however long it is of the power up.
It's 5.
It's 5 seconds long.
Is it really only 5? It feels like an eternity.
Yes, it is 5. I don't think you're playing with power up timers enabled. No?
I am. I just don't look at it when I'm using it too much. I use it for Mega a lot more than Gyro because it's so important when you transition out of it. All right. And then finally, the 5-0 match. We had myself versus Frost to see who goes 6-0 in Swiss. And it was a very close series. The last 2 games were won by Frost by only a margin of 5 points. And we each won our own picks. So I won points of the Radar and Platinum Construction Co. And Frostfire absolutely dominated on Architecture and had a close win on Prophetic. I know you guys both saw this, so what were your thoughts on the series? We'll start with bobirika.
GOAT status for both players, I'm gonna say right now. Frostfire's win on Architecture was expected, but man, that 60-point win must have felt pretty bad for you, didn't it?
It felt okay, actually. I mean, once I was down 30 points and it's on Architecture, I'm just thinking about the next game, just kind of
Just
going through the
zoning out.
motions. Yeah, I mean, I've played competitive in other games. In long series, you kind of have to just save your energy. And so by not fighting tooth and nail for every single point on Architecture when I'm going to lose by 30 points anyway, minimum, it's like I can save my thoughts on what I'm going to pick next and how I'm going to play that out for the rest of the series. So it's definitely the best Frostfire map out there. No one could beat him on it. So, not too upset about that one.
Points on the radar was very interesting. Of course, Frostfire being Frostfire, he's stupidly fast. But your aggression with blasts really paid off. So that sealed it pretty much.
Yeah, my keyboard actually fell off during that one. My W key, which I saw Jaxx comment on, the pains of a mechanical keyboard, but luckily it didn't affect the result.
Still pulled the
Yeah, that
W.
was something that. Oh, sorry about that.
No go.
Yeah, when I was watching for last night, I saw that you said that your W key fell off, and I felt really bad for you because I actually had the same thing, but with the D button, and I was playing like some single player level. I forgot what it was, and it's still broken. Like haven't bothered fixing it, so instead I just use a completely different keyboard.
Yeah. No, I love mechanical keyboards. I think they're so good, but at times like that, it can get a little messy. Especially when you mash buttons in this game harder than any game that I play, because you're always having to use WASD to move and jumping all around. So definitely puts a lot of strain on the keyboard. Definitely need to buy a new one. Any
There's
other?
also another thing too
Yeah, go
that
ahead.
happened was there was so many gem spawns in like the one corner on Horizon, and I was pretty annoyed at how much it was appearing there. And even E-Guy, I think that's who it was, he was upset too.
Yeah, I was also very upset because that is not how I play Horizon. I usually am very blue reliant with how I position for the map. So when it ended up being over in that corner a lot, Frost is a lot faster than me, so he can usually clean up those spawns very well. Okay. Um, any other thoughts, Bobby or Jax, before we move on?
We can move on.
Cool.
Yeah,
And
we can move on now.
congrats to Frost for the 6-0, coming back after 2023, which is a big achievement to do that and go undefeated. So nice job to him. Clip on the right here is Blue Sock versus Plasma. This was Eye of the Storm, which Blue Sock picked. And yeah, you can see the suffering of the tornado for Plasma there.
The tornado will eat your soul if you play at this level. Be careful.
Yeah, especially
It,
for
it
like
happened to me.
the lower bracket of players. Like once you get in the tornado, you're not getting out for a while.
I'm not able to tell whose marble was who because that I don't think it showed the names too, so I was kind of confused on who was which one.
Oh yeah,
I think the bowling ball was. I think the bowling ball was plasma. That's just my
the
guess.
the thinking emoji face is Blue Sock.
Yeah,
That's the
I
one
was
that he
right.
loves to play.
The
Okay,
thinker.
moving on to the match of the week, and this was almost match of the season. It was runner-up to
Wow.
only myself versus John in week 4, and it's easy to see why just by looking at the scores. The first 3 games were separated by 4 points, and then Playground was a 6-point game, and then Concentric is where a game really ran away with it. Almost all the predictions coming into the series were that Connie was going to take it, although people had definitely recognized A Game's improvement at marbles by this point and definitely thought that he had a chance. But it was still very Connie favored, and it's kind of crazy that this caliber of a matchup was only for a 4-2 spot, and Connie ended up ending the Swiss stage 3-3 after a very rough run of opponents between myself, Frost, and A Game to end it out, as well as Endy. So I think Connie probably ended up with the hardest Swiss lineup of anyone. So unfortunate she's going to end 3-3. But this was a very exciting game and a very well deserved win for A Game. Bobirika, what were your thoughts on this series?
This was wow. I don't think I've ever seen a game on Sprawl where it was close, like a lead. It was very, very close the entire way through. Like on Sprawl and on Treasure Box, I don't think there was like any point in which there was like a 10 to 15 point lead. It was crazy to see this game going on while I was there. It was truly a joy to watch. And answering that thing you just said about Kanye's schedule, I think Magic had it worse because he drew, who was it? Voltage in week 3. No, he drew Voltage, Andy, MBO, and me. Like all one after the other. So we could argue over that for quite a while. Either way, concentric was a war crime. The sheer luck blue that A game got was incredible. I
Hmm.
have to say.
Yeah. Um, Jax, what about you? I know you watched this one. Did it kind of line up with your expectations going into the series?
Well, I wasn't really, or I think I was expecting Connie to win, but with the first game, where Connie ended up overshooting the blue gem, I felt really bad for her. And also with pretty much all of the games, except for the last one, they're like very close. Like the first one is only by 2 points, then Sprawl is only by one, Treasure Box is also only by one, and Playground is like by 6.
Yeah, the first 4 games anyone could have won, and I'm sure like if I have games like this, like I'm kicking myself thinking, oh, if I just did that one spawn a little bit better, I would have won the game. But these two can say it for the entire series, which is kind of crazy, but very exciting. And the way these two play and like how their map pools line up with each other is just so interesting because these are the two that are willing to play Eye of the Storm, that are excited to play Citadel and all that sorts of stuff. So I was a little surprised we didn't get more Schizo to come out, as it's often referred to. It was really only Vibrancy Ground that's a little bit out of left field, and Concentric was the randomizer. So, I mean, is that a surprise to y'all as well?
Well, Freezy's, a person who was last in the tournament, said had a very, very real quote. People who play schizo maps are only taken down by those who also play schizo maps. So, considering that both Vibrancy Grounds and actually, in my honest opinion, Treasure Box also seems a little bit schizo because let's be honest, you can just farm in the same point differential on that one. Still, I was expecting some more interesting, let's call them that, maps. But Connie's good at Citadel, Legian's good at Citadel. They're both good at out the Storm, so can pretty much eliminate most of the schizo maps
Yeah,
if
I
you
guess when they're
compare
both
one
good
with.
at it, there's less to be gained by picking them. And so you just try and go for anything that would give you an edge. But they did both win their own picks, so at least they knew what they were doing there. All right, let's take a break from the slide deck and go over to the ELO. We have Kago with the most positions gained over the Swiss stage to the playoffs. Obviously, Kago.
I believe I was the second one, so he was the only one that beat me to that.
Interesting. So, Jax, your pre-seed was what, 23, and you ended up at 16. So that's quite a bit. That's really good. That's
Whoa,
what,
wait, wait.
7
I
positions.
just I just realized my pre-seed was like 18th and I ended up 6th.
Yeah, you're up
Somewhat like
12, which is in your name as well. So that's pretty cool.
that. I remember there was a meme about my name during the period of time I was still banned. I was in a server Europe here and he said, you should have given some bobirika 13 so they wouldn't realize that they're underage. Still the best joke that was ever made
Yeah.
based on my name.
And as for Kago, he started at 35 in the pre-seed and ended up 24th, which is actually only 11. So I'm not sure if the stat is correct if you went up 12 positions.
Hey,
Maybe I am
it's
actually
okay.
the most improved.
Yeah.
We have enough time to discuss about that later. Let's be honest.
I know bobirika has some thoughts on the results of that poll.
I'm not too sure that is very accurate, if you ask me.
Wow.
I'm gonna analyze that result some more.
Yeah, you'll be thinking of it over the off season as well. But we'll see.
Like I usually do.
Yep. So the results at the end of the Swiss stage, Frostfire obviously going undefeated is going to be at number 1. Zedron moves up to number 2. I fall to 3rd after losing to Frost. And then Eguy is a huge beneficiary of voltage forfeiting, moves up to 4th. And then there's kind of a big drop off after Eguy. And then we have Indy, Bobby, John, Naukus. John's still ahead of Naukus even after losing to them. And MBO and Ignis round out the top 10. And then there's a massive, massive drop off after Ignis to the next person participating, which is actually Wilches. Really, really strong result by Wilches with the 3 over Jacob 3-0 to move into 12th, which is a very, very good position to be in given the caliber of competition this year. And then we have a group of very, very talented individuals: A Game, Connie, Mazik, and then yourself, Jaxx, and 16th.
I'm not entirely sure how all of this stuff works. I didn't really go too much into this. Like, I didn't try to find out how this thing works, so I don't really have that much to say about all of these.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for you, like, does this kind of order line up with your impressions of where the players rank, or is your list kind of substantially different?
It might be like around the same.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Bobby?
I wasn't expecting to be this high, I swear. Yeah, point differential helped me out a lot because I noticed that the rankings on this website are mostly related to your ranking on challenge. I noticed that, and I artificially picked, and I picked prophetic and treasure box in week 5, not only for point differential to rank up, but to go up on challenge, but to also go up on this website. And
Genius
it's
move.
very crazy. Yeah, genius move, and it's still crazy to see myself higher than Mazik, Connie. I think I will be I think I'll be the same as A Game. Voltage is self-explanatory because the forfeit, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is the closest all season that the Elo has looked to kind of what I think is the fair order of players playing against. I've obviously played against most of the top 15 players pretty often, and this is kind of how I would rank them. I mean, maybe people would go up or down one, but in general,
Maybe more, maybe more,
maybe in your case a little more, but
maybe more.
overall it's quite solid. I'm happy with how it turned out. So thanks to Osas for running it this year. Um, Looking at the people on the kind of bubble of making the play-ins, the highest person that didn't make playoffs was Subtract at 28th and Osas at 29th. Considering 27 people made the play-in, I think this is
Yes,
not too bad.
27th, 27 people, but Plasma made it at 28th because voltage.
Yeah, Plasma made it, and he's 30 in Elo, but yeah, he was 28th in Challenge, and he made it. So it doesn't really seem like anyone was robbed in the Swiss stage, which is good to see. Huge drop off after Plat Oxide. Definitely was the best of the 2 and 4 players. And of course, we have Deathlore breaking the 200s at the end of the tournament. So congrats
He's
for
just
that.
chilling. Just chilling.
All right. And then I wanted to jump into the bracket just to kind of check in, since the bracket won't be on the slides, without getting into the results that have already happened. kind of what are your impressions on the bracket overall? And I guess we'll start with Jaxx here.
I don't know what to say.
Are there any like parts of the bracket that you think are really strong, or is there like a finals matchup that you would be expecting, given what we see on both sides here?
I don't know. I can't really find anything.
Fair enough. What about you, Bobirika?
This bracket looks like it's stripped straight from a war. It looks so stacked. If my predictions are correct, all of the 8 matches of the RO6 team will be top notch. Um, with some exceptions, all of the matches are pretty close, except for maybe something like um, Jean Plasma
Yeah.
and
You think Terry's
Andy
gonna beat
Robert
me?
like Terry Hurst, the second greatest of all time. It um it will be a match for sure.
Yeah.
It will be a interesting spectacle.
Yeah. I mean, my personal opinion is that this top half of the bracket is disgusting. Like the fact that you have Connie Turk as a play-in, Ignis Jacob as a play-in, A Game Shark as a play-in. Like this is crazy work up here. Um, Whoever makes it to the finals from this side of the bracket, I think, is going to be the favorite. Would you guys
Yeah,
kind of agree with that assessment, or
'Is
100%.
it disgusting in a good way or a bad way?
Good question.
not really either way? It's just kind of like how much concentration of good players are over here that will have some absolutely insane matchups. And when you have this kind of thing, you have like players that are going to go out in round in the play-in that are like probably in another bracket or
Quarterfinals.
another day would have made it to semifinals, you know. So that's kind of what I mean by that. And then on the other side, we're going to have still very good players, but kind of less dense. Like obviously, E guys should be able to defeat Surge pretty handily, right? And same for Bobruka versus Yoshi. Same for John versus Plasma. Yeah. So I mean that's kind of what I mean. It's like the games on the bottom here are gonna be less close, I think. Also, it was not always a good thing to be a higher seed because obviously we have Kago 14. It's very unlucky and draws Mazik in 19th. And then
Ouch.
Frostfire, who went 6-0. I actually think Frostfire has the hardest bracket of anyone. The only advantage Frostfire has is that he doesn't have to play Frostfire in order to win the tournament. Everyone else does. But for going 6-0 and being the
That's
number
a
one
bit
seed,
interesting.
he has to play the winner of Connie vs. Turk, the winner of MBO, Ignis, or Jacob, the winner of me or Zedron, or A Game, or anyone else in here, and then the winner of the other side of the bracket, which is disgusting again. Not in a good way for him. Like that's gonna be very hard. I know he went undefeated, but he still got taken to randomizer twice. I think it's
I don't
more
know,
likely
man.
that someone besides Frostfire wins this tournament.
I
I
don't know, man. He's pretty fast.
He
He's
is.
pretty
No,
fast.
no, don't get me wrong. I think Frostfire is the best player, but I would think it's more likely that someone besides Frostfire wins, just off of
Uh,
probability, because it's single elimination. You only get one chance
uh,
to screw up, and if someone has a good day
yeah.
against Frost, it's definitely winnable.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now that you say like that, yeah, Frostfire pretty got pretty unlucky. Turns out the best strategy is to never take the first place. Be like Arsenal in the Premier League. Taking second is moreover than not the safer choice. Because you're still going to Champions League for
yeah.
the Europeans.
All right. Well, that's enough about the bracket overall for now. I'm sure we're going to talk about that in the weeks to come plenty. Let's jump back into some predictions for the playing week. And if these games have already happened, we can briefly touch on them. But to be honest, not a lot of them have been super interesting thus far with the results. First up, we have Ignis versus Jacob. And again, this is Ignis who had a very, very good Swiss stage. Took both Frostfire and Zedron to randomizer, even though he ultimately lost both of those. And obviously he was able to beat you, Bobby, and a couple of other good players on his way there,
Oh,
up against Jacob, who is a very good player, finding himself in the 25 seed of the play-in. So I'm guessing most people were expecting Ignis to win this one. What about y'all?
I have for one. Jacob has the skills to take a game, but Ignis has been on fire. He has played very well in the Swiss stage, and most likely than not, at least one game will be like a very big win, like 40 points minimum.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong though. You never, you can always meet someone on a bad day
What are,
and can just get away on a whim.
what are your thoughts, Jax?
I don't really have anything to say.
Who do you think is gonna win, Ignis or Jacob?
Probably Ignis.
Okay. Interesting thing for me about Ignis is I don't think he's lost a single one of his picks this tournament. He was able to win Pyramid and Sacred against Zedron.
Yeah.
And he was able to win Parkour Peaks and Sacred against Frostfire. And
One PCC against me.
he won PCC against you. Against Wilches, he was able to win Peaks and Parpet. This guy is incredible at his picks. He's unbeatable almost for anyone in the tournament, which is really, really impressive. But he's also had a tendency to drop picks against his opponents, right? So that is something that we're gonna have to keep an eye on. Is I think other people can win their picks against Ignis pretty often because he doesn't practice at all. He's very good at his comfort picks, and he's not super up to date with the rest of the meta, and he also doesn't have that much experience on the new maps, given he hasn't played all that much. So that's definitely an area where I think other people are going to be able to kind of work on in the playoffs and when they fight against him. You know, obviously he lost
Yeah.
one of your picks, bobirika. He lost
Nether.
both the Frost picks and the randomizer to Frost. He lost to Wilch's one game as well. So, yeah. And he lost the pick
Hey,
to
I got
Robert.
close on PCC. Hey, I got close on PCC. I'm proud of that. Even though Nurse definitely screwed me up on that one. I was like bombing all over the place.
Yeah. But I think Jacob is going to be able to get at least one game.
Yeah.
With the length of the series increasing in playoffs, I think Jacob's going to have 3 opportunities to do it. I think he's going to score at least one. It wouldn't surprise me if he's able to take 2 or even 3, but I think Ignis is definitely winning this series. All right, and then we have a forfeit coming in for Eurobeater, which is really unfortunate. No indication of why, so I'm not going to pry on this one, but I think most people would have taken MBO anyway.
Yeah.
Then we have A Game versus Lasharkus, which I think is a pretty interesting play and match. Bobirika, I believe you played both of these players a couple times. So, what are your kind of expectations coming in?
I did play. I did play it in practice, and I feel like compared to the start of the tournament and generally last year, from what I've seen, a game is pretty much on my level, and sometimes even beyond. The
Mm-hmm.
shark is somewhat a little bit tad bit below, but he can still mess me up on certain maps. I'm call me crazy. I bet a game for one.
Wow.
He has improved so much that I am expecting a game to do it in just 5 games. That's that's just me. I believe most people bet for two, but still.
How about you, Jax?
Maybe A game might win this one.
A bold take. Maybe he might win.
Well, I don't really know what else to say. I don't really have that much
If you could give a game
opinion.
score of how many games you think Shark would win and how many A Game would win, what would you say?
I don't know. Maybe it might be like close to even. It might even be like a random at the end.
Okay, so 4-3. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I personally gone for a 4-2, which I know is a very common prediction. I think the main
Yeah.
reason for thinking this is that I think A Game will be able to win some of Shark's picks. I don't think Shark can win some of A Game's picks because A Game he's good across the whole pool, but he's also still good at those A Game maps like Eye of the Storm. If Eye of the Storm comes out, Shark is not winning. Like that's that. There's no chance for him on that map.
Wait,
And
don't forget about Citadel
of course,
and
yeah, Shark's
Dance
not
for
winning
Dance or
Citadel either.
whatever.
Like, and the thing is about this plan is that your map picks reset uh, before going on, so there's no reason for A Game not to use his picks that everyone already knows he's good at. He doesn't have to hide any of these picks. He may as well bring them out. And he may as well win because Shark is not going to be winning any of those strange picks. Now, there are maps in the pool that I think Shark is going to be able to be better than A Game on, but I don't think it's as consistent of a deal. So I think A Game's going to win the series overall. And
Yeah.
from my experience playing both of them, I think A Game is a bit of a better player that gives me a harder time. Although I also have a good matchup against Shark. Apparently, he does very well against everyone but me. And I just kind of whack him around.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
because in practice I managed to beat him by some significant points, but I don't want to sound toxic. I don't want to keep on rambling. So
Yeah, you suck, Sharky.
let's.
Get it together.
Even Keigo is better than you, man.
Oh no, not right in the Kago. All right. Well, moving on, we have Jaxx versus T Hurst. Bobirika, what were your thoughts coming into the game, and kind of how did that play out with what actually happened?
I was actually expecting Terry to put up a pretty good fight, but in the end, Jax to take it home for two. I was not prepared for the game that Terry was playing. I was not familiar with this game.
Yeah,
He shocked me. I was very surprised.
I was very
After my
surprised as
time,
well.
very
Unk still has it apparently, especially on those MVU maps that he was able to pick. I also thought Jax was going to be able to take this one. But it
more
wasn't that
extreme
it
betting than
wasn't
mine.
that Jax played like worse than his usual or anything. I mean I think Terry surprised everyone with how good he played. So yeah, very impressive
Would it
stuff.
be okay if I talk about the outcome of what happened since
Yeah,
it did
that's the next
happen?
thing I was gonna ask you actually. So go ahead.
Okay. I have a lot of things to say about this. It's not
Okay,
because like
let me
I
get some
ended up
popcorn then.
losing.
Go ahead.
I'm not like just mad that I lost. It's because it feels like I was pretty unlucky with how things went. It started out okay on Sprawl, but he ended up winning that one. And I also found out that there's a corner blue gem that appears, but it's not worth it if there's also other gems around.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up winning the second game on sweep, which I was pretty proud of.
That was the most decisive game of the series. Actually, you won by 30 points.
The third game, I forgot what it was. I need to
Marble it up.
check. Oh, there was like a double blue gem that appeared one after another. I was like a bit annoyed by that. And then the fourth game, I also forgot what it was.
You picked duplex.
Oh, that one. I was hoping I would win that one because it seemed like I was doing pretty good at the start, but then I ended up being not too good. There was one point where I was just jumping around waiting for the gems to run out, and then I ended up super speeding and it threw me off hard, and it wasn't that good.
Mm-hmm.
Then the last game, I believe it was Horizon. That one was kind of just like whatever. I have a feeling that I wasn't going to win that one. And so I was kind of just trying my best to stand up, but it didn't work.
Yeah. No, that was definitely unfortunate. And I noticed this series that you were leaving behind more gems than you usually would when I watched your play in other series. So I thought that was a good addition by you, but maybe haven't kind of nailed down exactly the right moments to do it just yet, and that's still something you're working on, but I thought it was a good start.
I recently found out that it's actually good to leave behind gem piles and just wait for the next one to appear. I remember at like the beginning when I was playing against like people like Mazik, I was just like doing really bad things like collecting every gem, and while Mazik was also waiting for the gem to run out so that he would hopefully spawn closer to them. But then as I played more into the tournament or whatever, I ended up finding out that it's actually good to do that strategy, and I sort of learned from that.
Yeah, I think there's like a lot of like strategic things that you're still learning, like the leaving behind gems, and then you also mentioned earlier about sometimes the blue isn't actually worth going for at the start. I think those kind of things just come with experience, and if you like start to partner those things with your speed more, that's kind of what's going to take you to the next level as a player. So I'm definitely excited to watch you take those steps as we play more multiplayer, and hopefully you'll be back for the next couple tournaments. Bobirika, do you have any further thoughts on this series or how Jaxx or Terry played?
Apparently, I bet 4-0. I actually looked at the wrong message on Discord. I was still, I can still sit there and surprised, but Terry played very, very well, I have to admit. And his progression from his match against Red Zone was very, very good. And I'm excited to see what he does in the future.
Yeah, I'm very excited to play him because obviously I was going to play the winner of this match. And I really thought I was going to have to prepare for Jaxx, but now I'm going to have to brush up on my MBU maps, I guess.
Ah,
Up against Terry. So that'll be fun. I really enjoy talking and doing stuff with Terry, so it should be a really fun game.
That was another thing too when I was watching back to see how I did. And then when I heard that Lasharkus was calling like the original Marble Blast Ultra levels Unk maps, I was dying laughing.
Yeah. Yeah, me and Terry are both like in our late 20s, so just like the Bobberika Blue Sock match, which was the youngest of the tournament, it's gonna be the oldest of the tournament. So that'll be
who
fun.
are you calling Gunk now?
I know.
I'm just
Hey, it's
joking.
still my first tournament though, so you gotta call me a rookie.
I got, I gotta admit. Yeah.
Okay. And finally, we have Surge versus Kali. This is one that I think most people thought was going to be very, very close for a play-in match. I ended up going 4-2 for Kali because Kali looked very good against Subtract in week 6. And Surge obviously had some moments in this tournament where I felt like he didn't really play to a very high level that we know he can show. So given the fact that Kali usually clutches up versus in playoffs, like last year he took MBO to randomizer, I think, in playoffs, which is kind of insane
Yes, he
because
did.
MBO went to finals that year. Um, so I really thought Kali would be able to take this one, but obviously that didn't really line up with what happened, and Surge played a very good game.
Hmm.
Did you catch the series, Bobby?
I did, and Sergey was just better. I have to admit. I also bet for Sergey, although I still bet for him to win on randomizer. But overall, Sergey was a little bit more refined in his gameplay overall, and I bet for Sergey because miracles happen from time to time, but they don't happen all the time. So I wasn't expecting such a big spike in skill like it happened last year. Sorry, Kelly.
Yeah. Well, that'll be it for Kali's tournament as well. Surge moves on to the top 16, which is a huge accomplishment this year and the furthest he's ever made in a tournament, I believe. So, GG to him.
Yeah.
Next up, we have your game against Yoshi. What are you expecting for this one? Have you prepared your Eye of the Storm?
I'm drawing all those shithouse pics. Not out of the storm, but I'm drawing something close to that. Like, still shithouse. I promise.
Jax, do you think
So
Bobby
keep your
has
eye
what
on
it
this
takes
game.
to take down Yoshi?
I think he might be able to do it. Also,
If you
another
say
thing,
no.
or okay, I was
Okay,
going to
continue.
say this for when I was playing with Terry, but I forgot to mention this. When I ended up losing on Horizon, I would have thought that maybe if I would have won that one, I would have chosen Eye of the Storm personally just for a game, just so that he's happy.
I think you would have crushed Terry on Eye of the Storm. That dude's probably not played it outside of those like colored name speed runs he does. Definitely not in multiplayer.
Well, I'm not sure about that. Terry has the top 20 time on it. So she might have mastered the tornado.
Well, the solo is definitely different than jumping around the tornado getting gems constantly in multiplayer.
Yeah, in the multiplayer version, that top area where the finish usually is on the single player one is completely useless.
Yeah. Alright, well, I've gone for 4-0. As funny as Yoshi has been, as good as he's played in some of the Swiss rounds, I mean, Bobirika's a like what 6 seed or 8 seed, something like that. Yeah, it's not going to be close. So yeah, congrats. Enjoy your round of 16. Next up, we have Endy versus Robert, and this one already happened, but I think most people expected Endy to have a very good time, and that's exactly what happened. Robert didn't manage to get a win on either of his picks, which looks like those were Skate Park Square and Triple Trail, although some of them were decently close. And he was able to take this home. Any surprise here for either of you two, or kind of what's expected?
It came out.
Yep. Okay. Then we have Kago versus Mazik, the extremely unfortunate draw for Kago. Pretty much everyone thought Mazik was going to win this, despite being the lower seed, and that turned out to be a very good assumption. I predicted him to go 4-1, and that is actually the score that happened. And Keiko was able to win Scadium by 2 points, and was also pretty competitive on Triple Trail and Treasure Box, which were both Mazik's picks. I think that really speaks to how far Keiko has come this tournament in terms of his level of play. It's just really unfortunate it had to end with such a difficult matchup given the seeding.
I feel kind of bad for who he got. Like, you got someone who lost to bobirika from like something. I don't know what happened to him.
That schedule. He didn't have a lot of time to practice, if I'm correct.
But the other person, Kigo, he's kind of like a newer person to the tournament, and I don't really think he has that much strategy ahead of him or whatever. So I had a feeling he was gonna lose that one.
Yeah, definitely hard to go toe to toe with Mazik no matter who you are. So it was gonna be very hard from the start. Kago definitely had some rough matchups in the tournament. I mean, he lost to Jacob in his first week. He beat Surge, and he lost to Zedron, and that was it. He lost to Zedron, Jacob, and Mazik. Those are the only 3 people that he lost to. But that is unfortunately going to be into play-ins that he gets knocked out. So definitely rough. But I really hope he's going to come back and play more because this dude is absolutely cracked and has the ability to be the best in the future with the way he's shown the ability to improve quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah. And he did actually win the I don't know what it was
Stadium
called. He won the
Stadium.
poll. Fastest learner,
It's our
yeah.
highest riser.
Which is
Something
very
like
well
that.
deserved, for sure. Okay. Then we have John versus Plasma. Do either of you think this is not going to be a 4-0?
Let's decide this via coin flip. I'm joking
Heads,
around.
it'll be 4-0. Tails, it'll be 4-0.
Edge will be 4 for Plasma.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Plasma is the best. I do think Plasma could be really proud of making it this far, but unfortunately, this is the end of the road for him, and John is going to have to set aside 20 minutes of his day to get this done. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we have Wilches versus Power John. I think given the level of play that we saw from Wilches against people like Ignis and Jacob, how he performed in those series, I thought this should be pretty decisive for Wilches. It ended up being pretty decisive for Wilches, a 4-1. Though I will say, Power John showed some things in this series that I really didn't see in Swiss. He was willing to leave the last gem sometimes. He was going out of his way to pick up blasts and using them effectively. And it was enough to take Triple Trail, which was really, really cool to see. And I hope that he continues sticking with multiplayer because I think, given his raw speed, he could be a very good player. So, yeah. Any thoughts on the Wilshire series?
Speedy boy.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, those are all of the play-in series except for the featured matchup, which was voted on in the poll and won pretty decisively, I think. So this is Connie versus Turk. This is the 16 seed versus the 17 seed, which is closest, of course, by seeding. This is the two of them, and I think most people probably have Connie a little bit favored given the difficulty and schedule that Connie had and how she was able to nearly get 2 games off Frostfire. Took me to randomizer, able to beat Endy. So she definitely has a very good track record. Turk also, went to randomizer against Jacob and nearly took MVO to randomizer. So these are two very good players. Kind of, what are y'all's expectations for this series? And we can start with Jaxx this time.
I'm kind of more partial to Connie that she's going to win this one. I don't really know why. It just feels like that.
Do you think it'll be close?
But yeah, I think it is going to be a close one, but I have a feeling that Connie would win overall.
Mm-hmm. What about you, bobirika?
I feel like Connie's will be able to win this match in 6 games because she can match the aggressive play style of Turk, and she has more raw skill. She's better to reach to maneuver around and not fumble as much as Turk. So I believe that on maps that Connie can pick maps that are very movement dependent and capitalize on what I think is Turk's biggest disadvantage, which is raw skill and movement.
Yep, I definitely agree. And actually, I have gone for the same prediction of you, which is 4-2. So Connie taking it in 6 games. And a lot of what I said earlier about the A game Sharkus match applies, where I think Turk is decent across the whole field, but he's not going to be able to win any of Connie's picks. Like, he hates Eye of the Storm. He hates Citadel. These are Connie's bread and butter. Connie could literally pick the 3 maps on the left side of this diagram and go 3-0. And that puts a lot of pressure on Turk to have to win all of his picks. But Connie can easily take Marble City, can easily take like Vortex Effect or Horizon or these other picks that Turk has been willing to pull out so far this tournament. But the same is not true in reverse. The other thing about these two is that there's going to be a pretty big ping disadvantage with Connie being in Europe and Turk being on the west coast of the United States. And what that means is that Turk's playstyle of using a lot of megas and blasts and just playing very aggressive is significantly nerfed. It's much better to be a fast player on high ping like Connie is. And due to that, I think Turk's going to have a very hard time trying to get things done, even on his picks. So given the massive like map pick disparity between the two, I think Connie should be able to win pretty comfortably. think the only way that Turk really wins this series if Connie just gets in a very bad mental headspace, like she forfeit to Turk in the winter warm up. So if Turk comes out swinging and gets a huge lead, like yeah, it's possible, and it's always possible that he has a really good day and is able to take the series. But I think Connie's extremely favored here. All right, anything to add? That was our last prediction. So we are done with the show this week. So any closing thoughts from either of you?
I have like one, or you can go first.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just hoping to make it past round of 16 this year because last year I faced Zedron out of all people, and it was a cool matchup. Game one was cool, but the rest were not really close. This year, though, I think I can realistically make it to quarters or even semis if I pull myself together. And I'm really excited to see what the other matches will give us and what will be the final bracket. That will be a very interesting sight.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any reason that you can't make finals of this bracket. The reason I said this lower half is wide open is because I mean, Eguy is probably the favorite for I mean, you, Andy, Nakas, Mazik, John, I feel like any of those could be any of the other ones on any given day, depending on who shows up. So it's kind of like a free for all to make it to the finals on this side of the bracket, where obviously Frost is favored on the other, and maybe myself or Zedron can get in there depending on how we play. But
Yeah,
this bottom half is
also,
wide open, so definitely get in there and do what you can. I think the sky's the limit for this lower half.
it's also the fact about my schedule. I hope it won't mess me up because I'm gone for like half of August, so I don't want to keep the rest of the players behind with the side of with my side of the bracket. In case I do manage to somehow to beat Andy, uh, sorry in advance for holding the tournament behind and potentially delaying the finals. If I'm to make it there.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Jax.
I guess since this is the last match for like that we're gonna talk about today, I guess we're gonna kind of end off on like a not really that serious note where you're saying that Turk hates Eye of the Storm and Citadel. If A-Game ends up watching this, he might be a bit disappointed.
Yeah, I think Turk is very lucky he didn't have to play A game this tournament, or he might have gone insane. All right, well, that is going to do it. Thank you both very much for coming on the show. You both did an excellent job. And yeah, thanks everyone watching for bearing with me, even though I've been sick, and I'm sorry that the show is late this week. But I hope that it is still enjoyable nonetheless. So be sure to leave a comment. And yeah, just watch the games. And I'll see you all next week for the round of 16. See ya.
Thanks for watching.